Working with Tim is another experience. He's the guy that knows exactly what he wants. He's the guy who can do it himself, but is delegating. And he's the guy that approvals process goes so smooth. He's an artist. So he's probably the one of the first directors that ask us, hey, which one do you like? Because we do so many takes on each character.
Mm.
At some point he said, why do you work and do so many versions? I just need the one. Which one do you like? That it's never been mentioned in our career. Any director had asked us which one do we like. You know, any producer, and from Spielberg to Katzenberg to any one of those big guys, none.
Mainly for me, Corpse Bride is, one of the most special films that I have seen in terms of, like, general animation, but also stop motion. So really, really a fan of that film. Tell me about your involvement in that film, and then we'll kind of go back to how your journey in animation world started.
Very good. So here is what happened on Corpse Bride, because obviously we didn't know Tim or Mike Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but McKinnon and Saunders, that is the studio in England, in Altrincham, very near Manchester, close to Manchester, they had worked with Tim on other things, preparing the first Mars attack, working on some things with him. So they talk about this studio, Grangel Studios, in Spain, that we did some designs for a short film that that were done at McKinnon and Saunders. And I don't know why. I think Tim saw something of those designs over there in Manchester at that time, because Tim was living in London. So and they had a great relation. And Ian McKinnon and Pete Sanders said, well, those are designers that are working for DreamWorks, Universal. They did films for Amblin. They're in Spain. And he was attracted to those designs for the Periwig Maker. That's the name of the short film.
Mm.
Anyway, long story short, Ian and I, we went and visit him in London at his house to talk about the next movie that he was planning to do. And he was there in his studio talking about this movie Corpse Bride that he had intentionally for him. He wanted to do Corpse Bride not much after than Nightmare Before Christmas. He had already the idea cooking, but stop motion is something really difficult to be sold to big studios, you know.
Right.
So when he had the occasion to work for Warner Brothers on Planet of the Apes and Willy Wonka, he proposed, hey, I'm doing these two films, but let me do Corpse Bride on the stop motion, as a payroll for me and my artist. So Warner Brothers kind of agreed to do that film too. So on that package, apparently, this is what I heard. So and we started. There are three films that we worked 3 years. The longest we work. One is The Prince of Egypt. Second one is Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. And the third one is Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. Those are the films that we stood the longest from the beginning to the end, even working with consumer products and merchandising, publicity. So wrapping up the entire package. So here at Grangel, we do posters for the films, we do credits, titles, and logos. We do the film title. We do props. We actually do art direction and backgrounds, but our specialty is character design,
Mm.
So those are the three films we worked the longest, For example, Hotel T was a year of work. El Dorado, almost 2 years. Madagascar was 8 months. Kung Fu Panda was almost a year for us. So those three films that I mentioned are the longest we work. It doesn't mean we're the best, but at least our involvement was the deepest, you know? Mm.
Right.
Uh,
No, thank you. Go on.
no, I just have to say one thing. Working, we work on many films, and I personally, I work with 42 directors on my lifetime up to now. Now we are
Mm,
on two other films, so it will be about 48 directors, 47, 48. Working with Tim is another experience. He's the guy that knows exactly what he wants. He's the guy who can do it himself, but is delegating. And he's the guy that approvals process goes so smooth and it's so cool. And it has a very artistic language. He's an artist. So it's everything on the wheels, you know, it goes smooth as it can be. He's probably the one of the first directors that ask us, hey, which one do you like? Because we do so many takes on each character.
mm.
At some point he said, why do you work and do so many versions? I just need the one. Which one do you like? That it's never been mentioned in our career. Any director had asked us, which one do we like? You know, any producer, and from Spielberg to Katzenberg to any one of those big guys, none even had even brought, hey, which one do you think should be the one for the movie? You know, so Tim did in several occasions, in presentations in front of people, you know, turning and saying, hey, which one do you like? You did so many, they're all great. I can see 7, 8 that can be candidates for the main character, you know?
That's incredible. I mean, Tim Burton is, I became familiar with his work. I think very first film or first two films were Batman and Beetlejuice, the original one, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously Edward Scissorhand came, and I think what really hooked me on to his work was it's probably one of his most underrated film, Ed Wood, the story
Mm-hmm.
of the filmmaker.
Yeah.
And then from I mean from there on, like Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, Mars Attacks is an awesome movie. But Tim Burton is definitely, he's still at it, and I think a sign of, like I've said this many times on this podcast, we talk about certain people, and those people are brought up, and we always talk about leadership skills, like to have that kind of a skill which encourages people on your team to be motivated, like you said, like, which one do you like? It makes a huge difference. And it just makes the other people work even more harder and feel valuable.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. For us, and we still, Tim came to Barcelona a month ago and invited us to join. We were on a deadline for another movie. We couldn't join, but we still preserve some friendship, and he's a director that has the artistic language talking. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he started at Disney, for God's sake. He is a guy that worked at Disney on a desk with John Lasseter and all these great guys, Brad Bird, all those guys that Glenn Keane at that time, all the new young guys after the Mill Calls and Mark Davises and Frank Thomas, etc. So he's an artist, and all his films, they can have stronger stories or weaker, but visually they are beautiful. I got really struck by his Batmans, with the Joker, Jack Nicholson, and then the one with the Penguin with Danny DeVito.
Yes.
Those were great. I remember I saw them in London when I was there working at Amblimation, and I said, this guy is phenomenal.
Yeah,
So,
I'm glad
so
you mentioned Batman Returns, because that's not really a popular Batman film, but to be
yeah,
able to have like Danny DeVito as Penguin when and then the Penguins and just that world that he
that
creates.
world,
Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, we all know he's very much connected to like darker tones or, death or, like as Beetlejuice and Corpse Bride is, you
Yeah.
know, pretty much about the same aspect. Tell me, Carlos, you talked about a few things, but your journey as in into the correct animation world, how did that start? What inspired you? And just kind of like, step by step, your path has been like.
Well, actually, I was an illustrator and worked for comic strip for Disney and other publications. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
paper, comic strips. And the market on comics, I was very young. I started 17 years old. So I I I did wanted to go into drawing my illustrations and comic strips. And the family said, okay, do what you want to do. And with my brother, the same. We both had the drive. I am 5 years older than my brother, but we love it to sketch, sculpt, and
Mm.
paint. So the comic strip market went down in Spain around the 80, 85, 88. So for young fellas, I'm talking about having 18, 19, 20 years old, it was devastated because it's more or less what's happening now with animation. That many people are out of jobs. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
anyway, I went and studied animation techniques, in a school and prepare myself. So when I finished, uh, and I had my demo, I find out that in England, in London, they had Amblimation, the studio of Steven Spielberg, that they were doing Feeble Goes West. Okay.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So I said, let me go and try. I had an English girlfriend, a great partner, and we said, okay, do you want to go back to your country? So we arranged it to go. And I brought my portfolio. So I showed it at that time to Steve Higner, Phil Niveling, and Simon Wells, that they were there. Steve Higner was the producer with Cynthia Woodburn, I remember. And they said, we just need a character designer because our main guy, the main character designer, Uli Meyer, an extraordinary artist, just left us on Friday and you arrive on Tuesday. So when can you start? And I said, you
Oh,
mean
wow.
you mean now? Said, yeah, we need someone. Your portfolio looks quite decent. Um, what did you work on in animation? I said, nothing. It's my first job. And they said, well, people doesn't usually start on feature animation. They do TV and they do video games or whatever. And well, I did my comic strips. And they said, well, do you want to try some weeks and see if it's working? And I said, well, you will have to see if it's working for you because of course I try. So I stood in London. And you know what happened on that 3 weeks, 1 month that 2 weeks, I was trying, Spielberg
Mm.
came and they showed him some of the designs. And Steven, and we had the meeting. They were so kind and nice, and that bring me to the meeting with the Steven, And he said, "Wow, that's impressive. You draw like the Disney guys." And I said, "Well, I did comic strips for Disney, but I'm not a Disney guy, I wish, He said, "Well, I believe we have a character designer now." And then after Steven saying that, everyone was like, we need to sign you in a contract because apparently you're going to stay. So this is the way I started. But I already had my studio, Grangel Studio, with my brother established.
Mm.
So the plan, my brother said, okay, you stay in London. If you need any help, send us some work. If not, we are doing publicity. We are doing other things here. We keep doing small jobs for commercials, animation, breakfast commercials, all these kind of jobs and you keep on going on feature animation because feature animation is kind of the highest level. This is what we think all in animation, the highest level. There is no high level. You can be enjoying doing a short film in stop motion. It's about how you enjoy it. But everyone sees from the outside that, wow, that's feature animation at Disney, at Pixar, at DreamWorks. That's the highest. So, so from that moment, I started on feature animation up to now. nonstop because thanks God, the studios that I were working on, they relay. I became a kind of an asset for them. So after one script became another and another, and then proposals from Warner Brothers, from Universal, from Disney, from Paramount, from Sony Pictures like Hotel Transylvania. So I could do other things in between the other movies I was working for DreamWorks, which I worked for the last 27 years there, So that is pretty amazing that, and little by little, what I'm happy is that we build this relation that it wasn't not a deal for Carlos Grangel. It was a studio deal with the majors, So finally they recognize my studio. They recognize my artists here. They recognize the team, the team of workers that can supply with other things that can help those big productions, So finally we succeeded. After Prince of Egypt, we started to collaborate in a bigger role, helping other departments anyway.
That's so amazing. I mean, I'm sure I've spoken to Simon Wells on this podcast like seven,
Yeah,
8 times.
yeah,
And Steve Hickner a couple of times, once for B Movie and once for Prince of Egypt.
yeah.
And amazing, amazing folks. And it's such a great story that your timing is so remarkable that you just showed up 4 days after somebody left,
Yeah,
and that
but
started a journey.
that started the journey. But the guy who left was Uli, and Uli was a phenomenal, still is, artist, which I admire. If Uli wouldn't have left, I wouldn't have the opportunity. Sometimes animation, like every job, is about, if the door is open, it's okay. If the door is closed, there is no way, no matter how much talent you have, or that you can do the job. Yes, but if they don't allow you to do it, it's no way you're gonna get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Starting, you have to think that it's true. It's not sounding pretentious, but character design is the look of the characters. For God's sake, those are driven movies based on character driven. It's the look of those images. Like art direction and production design, the look of the backgrounds and everything. To relay all that on a new fellow that comes to the studio and hasn't done anything on animation, that was pretty brave from Steve, Simon, Phil Niveling, Bonnie Radford, main producer from Hollywood, who was coming to supervise everything, to say, hey, guy, here it is. Give it a try. It's pretty remarkable.
For sure.
Yeah.
It is so remarkable because believing in other people sometimes is the best you can do, because it actually puts them in a place where they want to make sure that they live up to that expectation, right? And it is so cool. And you talked about character design. You're so right. It's one of the most pivotal things. Um, if you look at Prince of Egypt, right? Like the character designs in that film was just very different. Spirit Stallion of Cimarron to design a horse or a bunch of horses and get them to express themselves without even talking.
Yeah.
And then Corpse Bride, like, again, a completely different film where you have it's going to be stop motion, yeah, but character design, like, giving those darker tones, bringing it to life from those visuals so that the actual team can make the actual, um, figures, and for the lack of a better word. But it is very, very important. And I want to talk about Corpse Bride. What was which character or characters did you or your company design, and which one was the most challenging one, and why?
Listen, you're going to believe it or not, but this is what happened. The day we visit him, he had these wonderful watercolors and he was playing with some characters, and they were extremely good. So I'm playing here with some characters. I did some other sketches. Here is everything. I got you copies. So I took all that material. We spent the entire day with him. We went for lunch and we were talking in the afternoon. Um, so at the end of the day, I said, well, I'm taking everything to my studio. We're going to work on it, a small team, 4 or 5 people, trying to discover and see what what we can do. And he said, listen, I want you to do some new things. I just don't want you to trace my drawings, so see what you can do and surprise me, and that's something actually remarkable too, so we were very intimidating because obviously we were fans of Tim, but now we are working with him, so we have to please the guy, so the thing is that I took it to the studio and I said, listen, Tim, it's going to take us 2 or 3 weeks, Says, take the time you need, we don't have the production set. It's going to be shot in London. And the characters may come from your studio and the design of the props, but hey, we have time, we're not, the studio is going to take a month, 2 months, 3 months. We are getting the facility and blah, blah, blah. So after 3 months, well, after two weeks and a half, we presented these lineups, on of silhouettes, because we need to, we cannot work on only one character. We have to set the style on a lineup, then when you do 1, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 characters, 20, you establish the language of shapes. You understand what I'm saying? So yep. Character doesn't say anything. We brought it to him with some pages, with some faces and other takes on Victoria and Court's bride, Emily. And he really enjoyed seeing the lineups and seeing all this Victorian world of Land of the Living, and the only skeleton or zombie that we did was Emily, Court's bride, and we said the zombies, they need another chapter. We need first, we will be working on Land of the Living, and then we will do Land of the Dead. He said, wow, this is actually phenomenal. What did you took apart from my sketches? And I said, well, I went to Charing Cross, bought books about photographs on London 1920s, Victorian time, got information from McKinnon and Saunders that sent us stuff from old books and all images and photographs from black and white periods of England. He said, well, this is actually some of the things that I want to see on the movie, the way I envision. He said that. So it was a very good start. And to tell you the truth, from day one, it was a good connection. I'm not joking, For example, with Simon Wells, I didn't have such a good connection until working in London for 3-5 years, on different movies, until we work on The Prince of Egypt. Because Simon is a guy who knows exactly what he wants on every frame, okay? And Tim knows what he wants, but is going to allow you to do it yourself. 2 phenomenal directors, fine. But to work with Simon, you have to really know where are you navigating, and the river is shallow. You know what I'm saying? So I need to to take a deeper water to navigate. So it took me more time until it happened that I knew Simon after the 3rd movie I worked with him. We're Back, Balto, and then The Prince of Egypt, the first one done in the US. What he meant and what he wanted, talking about Simon Wells. While with Tim, from day one said, really, really, I love this, Go ahead and start nailing down the main characters. And Emily is the one that it took us longer. But when I say it took us longer, here is the comparative. On Court's Bride, creating Emily, it took us about a month and a half, okay? To have signed the final approved character. On The Prince of Egypt, but that wasn't Simon only, it was Jeffrey Katzenberg too. On The Prince of Egypt, to work on Moses, it took us 6 months until we got Moses approved. And I'm talking about Carter Goodrich, myself, Peter Desev, 2 masters. I don't want to be on that podium. You know what I'm saying? On American illustration, Carter Goodrich, Peter Desev. And then we asked Nicola Marlet to help us on the animals. So these were the Beatles, and I was playing the drums. I was Ringo, but they were the McCartneys and Lennons, What I mean is that with him, it went so smooth that there is no comparative on another movie. I don't think I can compare it to Hotel Transylvania too. Course, the process of approvals, and then Mike Johnson. Don't forget about it, because Mike was the guy that was 24/7 there, and obviously Tim was checking, keeping an eye, but Mike was there, and Mike was a decent, great guy too. So Mike Johnson, the co-director, both the process of approvals and the flow of production, it was probably the fastest one we ever been in a show, Probably we can compare it probably with Spirit too, with Lorna Cook and Kelly Asbury. Yeah, Spirit was good. The bad part about Spirit was making those horses to move like horses and looking like horses. That's another story,
Yeah, we'll keep that conversation for a later episode sometime down the road. But with Corpse Bride, it's so cool to hear your story about working with Tim and character design. I'm not an animator, right, in any way, but as a storyteller, I do know, and being an animation fan, I can tell that how important it is to have, instead of having like five different companies or two different companies to do character design of 10 different characters, it could be all over the place. And that's where if things don't start in synergy in the beginning, then everything else falls apart. So the character design in Corpse Bride, sorry, I should say this. So the animation in Corpse Bride and the characters in Corpse Bride wouldn't have been the way they were if the character design wasn't in place, wasn't in sync. So it's a collaborative effort, and it's such a weird concept with Corpse Bride, but it's so weird. I saw it again recently after a long time, and you still connect with it, right? Like, I mean, how many of us have actually are around that have been dead and came? You know what I mean? It's just so
Yeah, no,
cool
no, no.
to.
I know, and I have to say I saw it in February, because they on a film they were doing these cycles about Tim, and they invite us to present Carlos Bride, and he's aging well. The film is aging well. There are 2 or 3 films that they are aging well. Prince of Egypt is aging well too, and Corpse Bride is aging well. And I said, well, it's still striking, and it's still beautiful to look at, So the thing is that we were so involved. When we say we, it's the team here in Barcelona, the team in Manchester, in Altrincham, where the puppets were fabricated, in McKinnon and Saunders, and then the team in London, where they were shooting the film, on those big hangars, because stop motion needs space, and for everything, the props, the villages, the trees, the church, the Victoria's house, Corpse Bride forest, that bridge where Corpse kisses Victor, everything was so in synchrony. Every person of the crew, were so excited and giving their best to make the best movie possible, because we knew Tim had done Nightmare Before Christmas, okay, with an excellent team, a film for this many years before, we couldn't not do something worse. It had to be at least at the same, it had to be at least this close to that level. Everyone knew. That's why the animators, they gave the 100%, the mechanics that McKinnon and Saunders built in England, they were fantastic, phenomenal, that we could do things that they never were seen before on any stop motion movies. They could move their heads through screws on the ears, and the expressions. There were not many replacements, for the mouth. Everything was moved, on a mechanic head, but it still had to be beautiful to look at and elegant. Tim is coming from these films like Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, the all classic ones, where everything has to be top notch on the screen, where visuals have to be amazing. Tim is one of these guys. Then story obviously is the most important thing,
I was gonna say that, whether it's a big budget visual effects live action movie or animation, nothing matters unless you have a strong story. Once you have a strong story, then and everything else works out, which most of the time it does. When you have a strong story, then everything works out, right? So everything is important, but again, character animation is a phenomenal thing, and people, you talked about losing jobs when you were in the 80s and the comic strips were dying away. And now we have come back at the same place, with AI and so many other things. How is that playing out in your world, or is it going to play out in the f near future?
I think exactly the same like Tim. Tim was making these quotes on the newspapers talking about AI. What is the point of an artist of using the computer to do the job because it will look different or better or worse? The pleasure is just doing the job yourself. We don't get it. The challenge is to push yourself to do something new, like I do on every style, on every new movie. You know what I'm saying? What is the
Yep.
pleasure of living up to the computer, just typing some words or texting and the computer doing the job? I'm not interested in that. There is no AI on my entire studio. I'm not saying that doesn't help. I'm not against AI. I am pro artist doing the job, I think AI will help on some shows, but we will make more lazy people. And human beings, we have the tendency to do less, the less is possible, and to have the more money possible, get better pay for less. No, artists, we don't have that tendency. If Picasso will be alive, you talk to AI, to Picasso, and he's going to say, well, you talk to Sargent, you go and talk to Van Gogh and tell him that the computer is going to do the job. And he says, what's the point? I want to paint. I want to do the job. That's the most wonderful thing. The ones that we have the drive inside, we want to do the job. We don't know if it's going to look well, but we're going to put as much as we can our entire day. We're going to be monks on a monastery to bring the best possible job. What's the point to? Right now, I know designers that are using AI and they're presenting on every meeting 30 pages, 30 images, while I am presenting 5, 7, 10 maximum, working 12 hours a day, So, but they print out everything they get from AI and it's all there. It's overwhelming. Some of the directors are responding. At the end of the day, I don't criticize them. I keep on doing my job. Some of the directors are responding to my job. So it's okay, whatever they want to have. I just don't. First of all, I'm too old to use AI. Second of all, I still have the drive to create new things. I want to do it myself. Third of all, I don't trust the computer because everyone, if you take the same words, is going to give you the same. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
It's going to be a lot of copycat there on presentations around the planet. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, you did, and I think it's also true. So it's interesting time right now, right? Like, when the internet came out around the time when Prince of Egypt, you guys were working on Prince of Egypt. Obviously it was a different type of progression, but I remember at the time it was the same thing, like, what's internet, and I don't need a website and this and that. And now, everybody has it. But at the same time, one of the things we talked about, the artist, I genuinely believe it's not just artists. I think even human beings who have a 9 to 5 job that they probably don't even like to a certain extent. It's
Mhm.
the idea of working towards something and getting paid for it. I
Yeah.
think that's being recognized for your work. Um, and I think that's Elon Musk said that in one of the interviews too, and I think he's so right on that eventually what's gonna happen is you probably see them online. Like there's so many videos now of not just AI but robots, right? Like robots that are cooking, robots that are cleaning, and it's just going in that direction. Is that having not having even if you're getting universal basic income, like for not doing anything, and you have all this time, and
Mhm.
then the idea is, and you do something that you enjoy, but what is that going to do? Where is that going? You're just keeping it to yourself. I genuinely believe that we all need to do something where we do it, whether we like it or not. Obviously, preferably we like it, but we get recognized by getting paid for it. And I
Mhm.
think that that's the key thing that a lot of people are not seeing. I'm not against AI at all. I do think it's going to become a very strong part of our lives. But the question is how much, because a lot of people are losing now. Like I don't know if you don't know about AI that much, like you said, but just recently, I think 2 days ago, Google and OpenAI released the most recent software.
Mhm.
And it's you can actually talk to the AI on the phone, and it's so realistic where the AI is responding back with a very human emotion oriented conversation.
No, I
And
haven't heard about that, but I,
it,
I'm I'm pretty sure that things, all these things that are gonna be speeding up and arriving to a level that you will have no idea if there is
what's
a
real.
human being on the other side or a machine. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So.
but the positive side I think to it is like, and you mentioned that if everybody, I should say, if a lot of people, like 80-90% of people in our world, in the
Mhm.
film and animation world, start using AI, eventually, like with storyboards or character design or whatever, eventually the people who are not doing it as much or not doing it at all,
Mhm.
they're gonna stand out,
Yeah, they're gonna stand out. Yeah.
right? So that's a positive thing.
That's a positive thing, and I must tell you that we are right now helping two feature films. This is the maximum capacity we have. This is a small facility, a small studio. And we're seeing directors very challenged and really full of life when they see something from us compared to AI.
Yeah, yeah.
So they call and they say, well, we cannot say this to the other designers that they are using AI, but your characters, they have life, they have a heart, and they talk to us. The others are a bit cold, a bit, great render, it's final look, but this is not really what stroke us. So they are saying on a petit committee, they are not saying loudly because they know AI and we don't fight it back either. It's gonna take over. So they say, at the moment, we see good things on those things, but we rely more on yours. I don't know. They are talking to us. So
Yeah,
so so expressive, and um, I think we will be safe. I think at the same time, I'm not fighting the guys who are working on AI. We are having great relations. You know, um, we're all working on the same movie. You know what we want? The very best of.
of
So
course.
I saw a few things from AI that I was kind of impressed. Then I knew from where those two things were coming from, and I was less impressed because they told me the process. But I can see them working with our characters. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, what we will be doing is taking the AI characters and doing a pass. This is what the director had asked. Take a pass on the AI, give your look, but use what we like, and a final pass, it means that the humans we're going to do a final pass on top of the machines work. So
For
it
now, at least.
yeah, it's going to be the human blender at the end.
Yeah. And Carlos, you mentioned you guys are working on two movies. Unless you're not able to talk about it, would you like to share what they are?
Yeah, I can only share two things. One is a stop motion with a new director, a new company, that it's been really pushing for doing stop motion movies. Is the company is based in LA, but mostly of the work is gonna be done overseas. And the other one is a CGI movie. Original ideas. We don't work on sequels. Life
Mm,
is too short to repeat yourself. When it comes to design, we don't want to do second, third, fourth parts. We had big battles with studios that they came for the sequels. It's not interesting for us. We want to be challenged on each movie, and we work just on original ideas. So these two, one stop motion. Obviously, we cannot talk about the studio who is doing
mm,
that. The subject
that's
of
fine.
is very early on, so it will take 2, 3 years to be finished. But yeah, stop motion movie and a CG one, and we're very happy that stop motion after Pinocchio is having another uh
Rebirth.
revival. So it's coming back.
That's really great to hear. I'm a huge fan of stop motion. And I think my first encounter with a stop motion, knowing that it was stop motion,
Yeah.
was Chicken Run.
Oh, great,
Right.
wonderful
You
film.
know, wonderful, wonderful film. And Aardman, I mean, does incredible stuff with Wallace and
Yeah,
Gromit, and then all those shorts that they created over the
yeah,
years.
yeah. Creature
Uh,
Comforts and all the shorts. Went
yeah.
on.
So, and again, it goes back to that conversation. Stop motion, because you're physically creating these characters, right? After character design and storyboards and all that, even that has more power in my view, and it evokes more emotion than 2D animation or 3D animation does, because these are like real physical
Thing.
characters that are
Yeah,
roaming around, right? And
yeah.
it is so cool. It is so cool.
I love stop
Um,
motion.
yeah, it's incredible. How big is your team at the studio, Carlos?
Maximum 14 people, 10 to 14. Yeah. It's
And
people
how
that
many?
we've been
Sorry, go
working
on.
together for many years, so my brother and I, we design and we delegate on other things, but we mainly are on focusing on the look of characters, and the other ones they create from credits to posters to backgrounds to props to anything that goes with characters on the film. So, and the thing is that we've been finding some very high quality people from here and there, and we established a great bond, and we've been working together for more than 20 years, so it's people that probably we met in England or some in France or many locals, that we established that bond, and they know exactly what we want, and we're very demanding, but we're more demanding with ourselves. The only thing is that it's true. We are very tough when it comes to to quality presentations. Take care of the last detail, create elegant designs, work on shapes. We need to see something new. There are so many elements, but those guys they've been great through all these years. So yeah,
That
yeah, that's
that's really great to hear. And one of the key things you said, I think, which is so important for anyone's success in any part of the career, whatever they're doing, is that we have to impress ourselves. We have to be tough on ourselves, and I think that's what drives excellence. And you guys are doing that. That's awesome.
thank you. Be very kind. I don't know if we reach that level, but we're definitely every day encouraging ourselves to get better. You know.
I don't think anybody should reach that level, because once you reach that level, then there's nothing after that, right? So it's like a constant
Exactly.
strive to making yourself better every day with no end in sight. So, um, Carlos, this has been great. I had a great time chatting with you. We didn't touch upon Hotel Transylvania that much. That's fine, because
Yeah, all the time.
I loved talking about Corpse Bride and a bunch of other stuff that you mentioned. Would love to do it again in the future whenever you have time. It was great having you on. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all the work that you and your team have done that a lot of people have grown up with. I mean, character design not people, when you see an animation film, you just see an animation film and that's it, right? But it's a whole team behind it who brings it to life at different stages, and nothing happens before character design. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your interest in what we've done, okay, and what we keep doing. Thanks. All the best to everyone. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye.